Hello everybody, welcome back. This is your tropical update for October 6th. We're currently watching potential tropical cyclone 13 located north of Venezuela, making its way towards Honduras and Nicaragua, where it will become at least a Category 1 hurricane. Tropical Depression 12, we're still watching. It will be soon to dissipate, so let's get into it. All right, so as I mentioned, 13 north of Venezuela today, making its way near the ABC Islands, then near the Colombian Peninsula before it makes its way towards Nicaragua, where it will likely make landfall as a hurricane. A few islands along its path there likely to experience hurricane force conditions. Tropical Depression 12 is there. Not much to talk about. Our main focus, of course, is going to be 13 today. As we see here from the impact map, impacts have been increased to a moderate risk across eastern Nicaragua, as well as portions of, as well as the islands on 13's path towards Nicaragua. That is San Andres and Providencia, as well as Santa Catalina. And those islands all, again, a moderate risk, mainly due to those winds, also due to rainfall, likely near or in excess of a foot of rain in those areas in orange. Significant rainfall is also expected in the areas in yellow. Tropical storm force winds possible anywhere in the areas in green on this map. And again, that can change, increase in time, all depending on the path that 13 decides to take once it becomes a tropical cyclone. As we can see at the moment, the storm is really riding that coastline of Venezuela, and so long as it remains predominantly centered over land, almost the bottom half of this image here is land. You can kind of see the line here. This is land, this is ocean. Here are the ABC Islands, here Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire. Not in ABC order, which is rather unfortunate. Anyways, that's beside the point. This is 13. Here's its cone, likely to become a tropical storm. And again, tropical storm warnings are in effect for portions of that Colombia Peninsula that sticks up into the Caribbean Sea, as well as a hurricane watch for San Andres, Providencia, and Santa Catalina. Formation chances from the Hurricane Center are 100% within the next 48 hours, so we will have at least Tropical Depression 13 likely by tonight, and we could see the next name on the list is Julia will be the next name, potentially a Hurricane Julia making its way towards Nicaragua, where it will make landfall. As I mentioned, rainfall is going to be a big concern. Storm surge also possible, 1 to 3 feet in the areas with a hurricane watch. Northern Nicaragua also needs to be watching very closely to potential tropical cyclone 13. Here are the most likely time of arrival winds. Again, by Saturday evening is when we can begin to see tropical storm force conditions over Nicaragua. Honduras definitely by Sunday early morning into the later portions of the morning and midday as you go across the country, and then the rest of Central America as we begin the next week. It also depends on the path it's going to take. I'll talk a little bit about that here when we look at the ensemble models, but for now we're looking at the dynamical models where we have a general consensus. Pretty darn good. Smack dab the middle of eastern Nicaragua is where this thing will make landfall in about 3 days from now. So in about a day, it's going to be over that Colombia Peninsula as a tropical storm. And there's decent agreement on the strength and location of that. In about 2 days over the southwestern Caribbean Sea, where it will be in about a mid-grade tropical storm. And from there, again, we're looking at a low-end Cat 1 according to the Hurricane Center, but some models, as you can see here, bring it into the upper range of the Cat 1, perhaps even a Category 2 hurricane, making landfall in Nicaragua. And if those upper-level conditions are favorable enough, if this storm forms quick enough, it's certainly possible that we see a Category 2 hurricane out of this. Again, the category doesn't matter. There's going to be a lot of rain, storm surge possible as well with this storm. Rainfall, though, is going to be our main focus on this. And again, I'll mention rainfall here again when we look at the ensembles here shortly because it's so important. Very quickly, Tropical Depression 12 not looking like that. It has that swirl, has a little bit of convection outside of it. Thus, still is a tropical depression. Winds of 35 miles per hour. Nothing to write home about. No effects to land on that one. As you can see from the European model, It could reform eventually down the line, but not particularly concerned about that. So there are two things that I want to mention about potential Tropical Cyclone 13 is one, obviously, the obvious here, that there are two options for this storm, basically. One is it takes a northern route, kind of takes more northern Nicaragua, goes over Honduras, perhaps even comes back out over the Caribbean Sea briefly before impacting Belize, Guatemala, and portions of Mexico, and then sits over the Gulf of Mexico. And it's going to sit there, not necessarily gain strength a whole lot if it takes this northern path. Not necessarily gain strength, can just sit there, produce rain over the coastal areas of Mexico, and then it's going to rocket. Again, this is super far out, and this is just one possibility. Rocket down towards Cuba, the Bahamas, and Florida. So basically make like a whole 180-degree turn after sitting there, and again, producing very heavy rainfall over portions of Mexico. That's one possibility. The second possibility is much better for American interests, much better for Mexican interests of potential Tropical Cyclone 13, that it generally hits the central or southern portions of Nicaragua, and this is where the majority of the European ensemble members are at this point in time, and kind of goes into the Pacific, potentially will continue as Julia in the Pacific, and then kind of ride the coastline there, not staying stagnant over the Gulf of Mexico or anything like that. The GFS showing much the same solution, a little more split, half and half, between the two options. Again, the northern route takes it into the Gulf of Mexico eventually, and who knows what will happen down the line, or how much rainfall could be associated with that. The other option, which at this point I would say is more probable, but we definitely need to keep an eye on both, takes it into the Pacific as a continuation of the same storm. But nonetheless, what we know now is that we will have a hurricane very likely making landfall in Nicaragua in about 3 days from now, producing very heavy rainfall, likely in excess of a foot, widespread throughout the country. That's all for now. Chris Sixton over there, Catholic Media.